Frontier have just released an absolute truckload of new information about the Trailblazers update, the year ahead for Elite Dangerous, details of the next new ship to enter the game, a full roadmap for the year's upcoming releases, and mention of a brand new feature for 2025 for FDEVs genre defining space simulator. In this video we're going to break it all down for you right now. In what's going to be another packed year for Elite Dangerous then, let's first talk about the Trailblazers update that landed in the game today. As you're almost certainly aware, the headline act for Trailblazers is the addition of system colonisation, the ability for commanders to essentially take ownership of an empty star system in or near the bubble around Sol, becoming its architect, defining and building the stations, starports and installations there. The update has been deployed live into the game, but it's being described by FDev as a beta. The terms of the beta are however somewhat non-traditional. The update itself is feature complete, but it's essentially the numbers around the reality of usage that are really being beta tested, and it's these that might change as it progresses. Any progress made and any systems claimed during the beta however will remain at the end of the process. FDev appear to be handling the launch this way so that they can get an accurate handle on where the numbers need to sit, as a more traditional beta where all progress is wiped at the end would not be engaged with by the player base in the same way and would skew the resultant figures. Also, systems are colonised on a first come first served basis, and a more traditional beta risks players showing what systems they are targeting first, meaning they could be blocked from taking them when the beta period is over. So this is how colonisation is going to work. For a system to be colonised, it must be within 16 light years of an existing populated or colonised system. This is obviously higher than the 10 light years first mentioned by Frontier. Once a suitable system has been identified, players can speak to a new system colonisation contact at a starport within that 16 light years. That contact will allow players to identify what system they plan to colonise on a special version of the galaxy map. Once the system is identified, players must choose what type of initial port or orbital outpost they would like to build in the system, and then they will be charged 25 million credits to register the claim. They then have 24 hours to deploy a system colonisation beacon to a predetermined location in the target system. With the deployment of Trailblazers, a new module is being added to every ship in the game called the Colonisation Suite, the same way every ship has a discovery scanner. The Colonisation Suite contains the system colonisation beacon, and once it's deployed, the colonisation process starts. Once the beacon is successfully deployed, a system-wide countdown can be seen that counts down to the arrival of a colossal colonisation vessel. This vessel will act as a hub for the overview and delivery of commodities and building materials needed for the initial starport to be constructed. This construction must be completed in 4 weeks. If it is not, then the colonisation effort is deemed to have failed and all delivered commodities will be lost. Once the construction effort is successful however, the new starport will appear and the colonisation vessel will depart. Thereafter, the initial starport can be improved and upgraded with the continued supply of commodity resources, and the system architect can then choose to deploy more assets of varying types in orbit via the system map or on planetary surfaces by landing at their chosen position on the planet. Once a new construction project has been identified, any commander can land at the construction site and deliver some of the needed resources to finish the project. As more assets are added to a system, the more its population will grow, its economy type and tech level will change, and adding assets to a system will unlock access to larger and more complex structures that can also be added, and so it goes on. There is a limit on the amount of available slots to build in that a given system has. This is likely driven by the overall system size and the number of type of planets, etc. Anyone even remotely familiar with Odyssey level settlements, however, will know that existing systems can span a fairly significant number of settlements overall. The number of slots available in a system can be determined with a full system scan using the existing tools before the colonisation process is started. We now have news on whether players will be able to name their own starports and facilities, with the answer being yes. These names are initially randomly generated by the existing in-game naming system and can be generated and changed a maximum of 5 times. Players can however unlock custom naming of a facility with an ARX purchase, and that comes with infinite renames. Whilst commanders can only initiate colonisation of one system at a time, once that system is established, 5 construction efforts can be initiated within the given system, up to a maximum of 15 simultaneous construction efforts overall, and unlike system colonisation, the construction efforts do not have a deadline on them. Once initiated, they can take as long as they need to complete. Interestingly, once established, a system will generate a passive credit income for its architect on a weekly basis. This amount of cash will increase according to the number and scale of facilities built within a given system. As the number of owned systems increases, a galactic levy, essentially a tax, will be placed on any earnings over 5 million credits. In the words of Frontier, quote, to support mass infrastructure maintenance throughout the galaxy, end quote. Quite why this tax is being levied in reality is unknown at the time of recording. 5 million credits is an incredibly trivial amount of money in the Elite Dangerous universe, so it will be interesting to understand in the weeks and months to come why this has come into effect. Also, once a system has 10 or more facilities in those systems, it will offer a small discount on any ships and outfitting purchased to the architect of that system. In a nutshell, that's colonisation, but the Trailblazers update isn't just delivering colonisation. A second new contact has been added to the game called the Refinery Contact. Think of them in the same terms as a material trader, but instead of converting materials, they instead convert mined raw commodities into other commodities within a very narrow and specific range. You can see the conversion rate and commodity list on screen now, and whilst it hasn't been specifically stated, we're guessing that the resultant refined commodities are important in the construction of colonisation assets. The short version of this is that mining in all its forms as an activity in Elite Dangerous is absolutely about to become important in the game beyond the pure generation of wealth or merits in power play. In a welcome refresh, 2 new Coriolis starport customisations are also being deployed into the game with Trailblazers. There will also be 2 new asteroid starport types, which you can see on screen now, one of which is set inside an icy ring. And the current darling of the exploration community, the Zorgon Peterson Mandalay, will be finally leaving early access today, so will now be available in the game for credits. To celebrate its arrival, there is also a new ship kit destined for the ARC store in the shape of the Mandalay Ace kit. As the full patch landed this afternoon, Frontier released the update notes for it, which actually serve as a fairly extensive product update page, including numerous video clips and graphics detailing colonisation and what to expect from it. You'll find that page below this video. Frontier have fully revealed the rest of the ship that they teased late last week, and I can now report that the next new ship to enter the game will be the medium-sized Gutamaya Corsair, meaning that if you've been keeping up with our latest videos, you'll know that we managed to guess almost every single detail of the new ship, aside from its size, completely wrong. FDEV are describing the Corsair as a multi-role ship that sports an impressive potential cargo capacity and a strong hardpoint selection to help with protecting or indeed acquiring that same cargo. It's also the first medium class vessel to support size 7 thrusters, meaning that it should have exceptional speed and mobility for a ship of its size. As well as being able to carry heavy loads and handle itself in a scrap, the Corsair has been specifically designed, unusually for a multi-role ship, to also be very capable and a viable option for explorers. As you can see from the images on screen now, the ship has a very strong visual style, sporting a somewhat avian appearance, right down to its beaky nose. It's a look that I do think will likely mean it being what the British tend to refer to as a bit Marmite. You'll either love it or hate it. Like the Mandalay that came before it, the Corsair features animated pop-up headlights, and the centrally mounted main thruster that was a feature of the teaser image last week animates as the ship moves, and it's currently expected to release into early access this coming April. As part of today's huge FDEV info drop, they revealed the plan for the year ahead of us in the form of a roadmap. The roadmap is split into 5 phases, the first 2 of which we've already discussed in this video, they being Trailblazers in phase 1, which launched today, and in April the Gutamaya Corsair in phase 2. Phase 3 is scheduled for the summer, and it features an as yet unrevealed new ship and a new update to the game that is being called Vanguards. Vanguards we do have quite a bit of information on, and we'll cover that in a moment. Phase 4 arrives in the autumn and features another new ship, and finally, as the nights draw in this winter, Phase 5 will deliver yet another new ship and a new feature to the game that, as things stand, Frontier are saying nothing more about. Perhaps unsurprisingly, it's a very similar cadence and pattern to last year's content drops, and I have to say that is most welcome. The unknown new feature at the end of this year puts us all as a community in a very interesting position. Up until last year we'd always had 1 or 2 leaks from within Frontier to fall back on when it came to speculation on what was being added to the game. Those leaks were quite old, but as it turns out, very reliable. Now however, everything is off the table, and we really have absolutely no idea whatsoever what Frontier might be working on next. And given that finally, after many years, Frontier really seem to be finding their feet with this game, nothing is honestly off the table. The other major content reveal then that came out of Frontier's info dump this week is what they're calling Vanguards. The Vanguards update is currently scheduled to arrive in the summer of 2025, and in a pre-recorded interview shown on the Frontier Unlocked livestream this week, it was described by Frontier's Senior Director of Projects, Piers Jackson, as a spiritual successor to the Squadron system. The current Squadron system in Elite Dangerous, if I'm being kind, is extremely feature light to say the least. Joining a squadron in Elite Dangerous really does little more than show your squadron allegiance to the world and grant you access to the squadron chat channels, and that's really about it. Certainly for our squadron here, all our squadron business and communication is handled almost completely away from the game itself, using applications like Discord and websites like Inara. With the development of Vanguards for Elite Dangerous, it seems that Frontier are keen to make the squadron experience much more fully formed, introducing completely new features to the game and bringing a lot of the necessary communication around squadron gameplay inside the game. The system is still being heavily designed and built by the company, and so at this stage specific details were, as you'd expect, quite thin on the ground. However, as part of the conversation with Frontier's head of community PR and comms, Arthur Tolmie, Piers did open by saying that one of the things they're trying to do with Vanguards is improve communication and social gaming within Elite Dangerous. He went on to loosely describe Vanguards having an area of the UI that they can use to communicate directly, and also set objectives and gameplay tasks for the Vanguard to complete. In completing those tasks set by the Vanguard leadership, the participants in the task will receive a perk of some kind, an actual reward in the game, the specific nature of which is still being worked out. Piers is also keen that the Vanguard system be used as a way to onboard newer players into what is, on occasions, an extremely complicated game to play, and to that end they'll be improving how players can communicate with other players outside of their Vanguard, making joining an established Vanguard easier. Perhaps the most intriguing and exciting feature of Vanguards that the team touched on was what essentially equates to the Elite Dangerous equivalent of a guild bank. Whilst details are still very much on the drawing board currently, Piers and Arthur described potentially being able to store credits, modules or even ships in the bank, allowing other members of the Vanguard to benefit from them. Overall, the team very much see Vanguards, and in particular the ability to set and reward tasks, to dovetail very neatly with power play, BGS and colonisation progress. Elite Dangerous is a great game, but it takes on a whole new shape and meaning when it's played as part of a group, no matter what activity you're participating in. Vanguards sounds like a fantastic opportunity to bring that group play experience to many other players, whilst also helping newer players get into the game, discovering its depths quicker and helping everyone participating in the Vanguard get a greater sense of what goals are available to them that they can go on to achieve together. I'm really pleased to hear that Frontier are exploring this much maligned and underexploited area of the game, and I'm super excited to hear more about this as the year progresses towards its summer release. What a year 2025 will be. Trailblazers landed today, the Gutamaya Corsair will be with us in April, the summer sees the launch of the revamped squadron system in the form of Vanguards as well as a new ship. There's a further new ship in the autumn, and for the winter yet another new ship and a completely unknown new feature. There have undoubtedly been some difficult years as a fan of Elite Dangerous, but those years are very much not these years. After many long-time players had written the game off as, at the very least, past its prime, Elite is showing that in every meaningful regard it's really only just now getting started, and we've got yet another absolute stonker of a year ahead of us. I've said it on this channel before and I'll say it again now, it's a hell of a time to be an Elite Dangerous commander, and no matter the weather, the Buur Pit will be here for all of it. Are you digging into the Trailblazers update and grabbing yourself an entire star system? What do you think of the Gutamaya Corsair, and are you looking forward to the release of Vanguards later this year? Let us know in the comments below. If you've enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe so that YouTube shows you all our content, and if you'd like to support our work here at the Buur Pit, you can also join us on Patreon. Links to that and everything we've talked about in this video you'll find linked below. That's it for now. Thanks very much for watching. We very much look forward to seeing you next time.